Thank you very much. I'm here with DOUBLELIFT after a successful first win back on TSM over on Cloud9. Obviously a pretty fun series there. Game 2 looked a little dicey, but you guys made it through. What were the expectations kind of moving into this series versus a tough opponent?
I think I just expected Cloud9 to be really good. I heard that they were like practicing for a few weeks before LCS started, where we'd only been practicing for like 6 days. So, I mean, that's just because TSM was at MSI and then I was like transitioning from being a streamer. So I honestly didn't have super high expectations, but practice has been going good. And yeah, like it's like we haven't skipped a beat since last summer.
I have to ask you, obviously you played a little bit on Liquid towards the end of spring, but what has that transition been like, given the low practice time, moving away from streaming and kind of back into the team environment?
Well, on Team Liquid, I think I had to do most of the calls for, you know, macro and rotations and just in general, just directing the team's flow and tempo. But on TSM, I think they have a really great system already, and I'm more like supplementary, and I'll step in when I need to for certain types of like in-game moments. But for the most part, I'm just more focused on like my own individual stuff. Just because it's been a while, I feel like I'm a little bit rusty, you know, the streamer life, and I'm just worried about playing well individually first, and then the team is just like, I don't know, it's like a well-oiled machine, you know.
And has metagame been a concern at all? Obviously, Xayah and Rakan, a very new pair of champions that maybe haven't had as much time to practice against. What are your thoughts on kind of the new champions and playing against Sneaky and Smoothie?
Well, we dumpstered them both games when they played Xayah Rakan, so that was pretty easy. I think it's good. I think Rakan is really strong. Xayah is like, she's really slow tempo champion. Like she pushes lanes, but then she doesn't have any plays. You basically have to get baited by her ulti, and then she can like make a turnaround and play with her feathers. But I think you have to be like pretty bad to walk into all her feathers. So in general, like Rakan, you see those crazy engages where he just like flash and gets like 3 people. But Xayah, I feel like, I don't know, she's a really good scaling champion, but she's pretty bad early.
And final question for you. Obviously, back with BIOFROST, you guys haven't played in a little while, but again, looking as dominant as ever in the 2v2. Are you guys still the best duo in the league? What kind of competition do you expect from maybe some of the other bot laners out there, or are you guys already the best again?
I want to play against Arrow and Shady. When I was on Team Liquid, I played against that bot lane, I think. No, wait. I think they might have played Stunt. But I think Arrow has been, you know, he's MVP, and he's been getting a lot of attention for being a really consistent player. But yesterday, he was down like 40 CS in lane, so I feel like he really shines in team fighting comps. But in lane, he can be really easily abused. Like IMT's bot lane, which is also really strong, took their tower at like 6 minutes. So, yeah.
All right, well, best of luck the rest of the way. Thank you very much for the interview, but we are going to throw it back to the analyst desk to wrap up the series.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. DOUBLELIFT and the rest of TSM going to be very happy to kickstart their season with a victory over C9. Again, rematch of the spring finals, and they do it this time around 2-0 fashion, returning to that summer 2016 roster.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the summer finals between the two teams. It was a 3-1 pretty decisively in TSM's favor, so not a great start for C9 here, but it is, you know, first week, and they did play 2 of the stronger opponents in the league, most likely.
Absolutely. I do think a lot of people are going to look at the standings at the end of the day and say, oh my goodness, C9 0-2 start to the season. We have to remember that it's 1 against the first place team and then 2 against the CLG that most people would say on paper is already an upgraded roster from what they had in the spring split. But I want to talk about this TSM victory here because Game 2 did not come as easily as Game 1 did. And we're going to start by taking a look at the final fight to see how it all ended here around the top lane inhib turret.
Right, this is after the kind of turnaround that we saw at a TSM. Now they actually have the advantage in a lot of places, and they get this engage off. You see just CONTRACTZ kind of man-moding into the front line by himself, able to get focused down extremely early on. And then Kennen being able to provide a zoning ultimate. This is one of the differences you see between AD carry Kennen and the AP Kennen. Normally you're diving in the back line. There, you can just drop your ult to protect your back line, and they have to run through that. It makes it pretty difficult. And then once they deal with the front line, they can chase down the rest of the way, and they're eventually able to close them out, and they take this victory over C9.
Right, but as was mentioned, it did not come easily. We saw that C9 had plenty of advantages throughout the game themselves, and that will raise some concerns around whether or not they understand exactly how to close games out in the current meta. I mean, we heard the discussion around Xayah and Rakan, DOUBLELIFT saying that he doesn't feel necessarily that Xayah is all that powerful, and it does require, you know, you to kind of walk into her ultimate of all things. but that could also be to a degree people not having figured out the champion fully yet and understanding how to push her advantage.
Right, I mean, that's definitely the case where that's the most obvious way to play her is you kind of kite back, your feathers lay on the ground, you pull through the whole team, it's really strong. But we saw when CLG was playing it, they're actually using it more as a combination tool. Orianna groups everyone up, you throw the ult on the top and pull everything back in. If we see more of those kind of follow-up engage tools where you get some extra CC and damage over the top of a primary engage, that might be a little bit better. Here, they didn't really have that quite on the side of C9. It's a lot of displacement tools and splitting fights up.
And while Xayah doesn't seem to be quite figured out yet, I feel like Rakan has been utilized to great success by a few players. I mean, even in the losses here, I think that SMOOTHIE has had some tremendous engages and follow-ups on engages. So just a small shout out to him as he's mastering that champion. But now I want to return to the beginning of the game and see how it developed, because on the outside of the day, we're talking about, hey, JENSEN versus BJERGSEN, and referencing the Echo game 5 of Spring Split. Well, guess what? We get the Echo here again, and 3 minutes in, first blood to TSM.
Yeah, and this was similar to what we saw actually in that previous series, where sometimes JENSEN just plays a little too far up in the lane. Echo, being a melee champion, if he wants to trade, sometimes has to take those risks, but it feels like occasionally he can lose track of Sven, excuse me, and that's one of the things that's always so good about JENSEN is he can absorb jungle pressure. It seems like against BJERGSEN, whether it's because BJERGSEN's pressuring him a little bit more or maybe it's a little bit of a mental block, he does seem to get caught out in laning phase a little bit more than normal.
So while things start to go downhill in the mid lane for C9 here, we got to jump to the top lane and take a look at a matchup that was going HAUNTZER favored in game 1, and now here we have Ray with the solo kill at 6 minutes into the game.
Yeah, Ray starts this game out great. We were talking about how he needs to get more done on his own, and I mean, he's able to get this solo kill into HAUNTZER. It's a really close chase down. What's funny enough is it's the time that he's on the tank that he's able to start generating his own leads here, and then he also got a little bit of jungler attention as well because CONTRACTZ made his way up there again for a repeat kill. So